Good day, everybody. Welcome back, or welcome to It's a Small Vlog. And today, as you can see, I'm at Disney's Hollywood Studios for a construction update. Only at Disney's Hollywood Studios, which quite honestly are words that I never thought would leave my mouth. And if you've been keeping up with the channel lately, obviously you know that for many years I've been doing construction updates here on the channel, particularly at both Epcot and Magic Kingdom, just because for the past few years that's where most of the investment has been happening. But today just so happens to be kind of a special case. We have a ton of news to cover. Now, construction, there's not actually a ton of visible construction happening at Hollywood Studios yet, but news-wise, I mean, we have so much to cover. And I'm sure most of this news is stuff that you guys have probably already heard, but it's stuff that I have yet to cover. And of course, I'm going to be offering my thoughts, my commentary, my analysis on a lot of the things that we're going to cover today. So to start off the video, we're going to head on over to Grand Avenue, which of course is where the Muppets are located, to discuss kind of what's going on over there, because we have a lot of news to cover. Okay, everybody, well, I've officially made it to Grand Avenue, of course, the home of the Muppets. And before I get into the news that we have to cover, please take a moment and enjoy me poking a little bit of fun at myself for some speculation that I made a few months ago back when Monsters, Inc. Land got announced at D23 Expo. I made some speculation. Turns out I was dead wrong. So please enjoy me poking a little bit of fun at myself before we get into the news coverage.
They're going to build the first Monsters, Inc. Land in Disney. And it's coming to Disney's Hollywood Studios. Now, in this new land, humans have been invited to visit Monstropolis, and they need our laughter to power the city. As part of this new Monsters experience, you're going to get to tour the Laugh Factory. Factory and experience the first suspended coaster ever in a Disney park. Now, here's the great thing. Construction on the project starts next year, and I can tell you that there is so much excitement and imagination for the land.
Is Monsters, Inc. going here, or is it replacing Muppets, right? Because Disney did not confirm that just yet. Here's the thing. It's not going where Muppets is. I can tell you that right now. Because number one, Muppets has a cult following. They're not going to get rid of that. And number two, there is just simply not enough room to put Monsters, Inc. back there. Yes, just because there's brick, pavement and walls in the concept art, that doesn't necessarily mean that's where it's going. It's not going where Muppets is. So I can promise you, the Muppets are not going anywhere. Alright, so let's recap for a bit. I know it's been a while since I've covered the news that was announced back from the D23 Expo in August, so I'll give you a quick refresh. During the Parks panel at the 2024 D23 Expo, Disney confirmed that a new Monsters, Inc. Land would be coming to Disney's Hollywood Studios. The land will feature themed shopping and dining, a new theater show, and a major e-ticket attraction, boasting to be the first ever suspended roller coaster in a Disney park. And while the announcement was received with mostly positive reactions at the expo, there was one thing that had Disney fans conflicted. You see, when Disney announced this project, two conflicting pieces of concept art were shown to guests. You have the first one, which is what many people believed was indicating at a potential replacement of the Animation Courtyard area, and then you have the second one, a piece of conceptual art that clearly indicates replacing Grand Avenue. What many people also believe is that for a while, Disney themselves didn't even know where this Monsters Inc. land was going, hence why they showed 2 different pieces of concept art. But fast forward 3.5 months later, and Disney officially made their location decision. On November 22nd, 2024, it was made public that Monsters Inc. would in fact be replacing Grand Avenue at Disney's Hollywood Studios, where the Muppets are currently situated. Now, as for when Grand Avenue would be closing, we didn't know until just a few days ago when Disney made another news announcement. Last week, on January 24th, Disney gave us 2 closing dates for the experiences you can find here in Grand Avenue. So we'll start chronologically. On May 10th, 2025, Mama Melrose's, the table service Italian restaurant in the back of the area, will have its final day of operation on May 10th, 2025, and will close permanently the next day on May 11th. Then, nearly a month later, the rest of the land will also close. Both Muppet Vision 3D and Pizza Rizzo will have their final day of operation on June 7th, 2025, and will close forever the following day on June 8th. Now, the closing dates here are interesting. If you had asked me before these dates had gotten announced, I would have bet my money on a possible fall closing date for all of Grand Avenue, but these late spring and early summer closing dates are way earlier than I expected. What I find especially strange is that similarly to Dinoland over at Animal Kingdom, Disney is opting for a somewhat phased approach to the closure of Grand Avenue, but in a much more condensed time frame. Unlike Dinoland, where the phased closures are going to mostly be about a year apart, Disney is only giving us about a month in between the first closure and second set of closures, but this is probably not by accident. If we look at the concept art, even though the majority of this land is going to be a retheme of what we currently have, the one thing that's not will be the e-ticket roller coaster in the back of the land. What's close in proximity to the coaster is what appears to be Harryhausen's from the film, which is what Mama Melrose's is set to be rethemed to. So what I'm getting at here is that the extra 1-month closure of Mama Melrose's will most likely allow Disney to work out the logistics of building this massive roller coaster, which is set to replace a good chunk of the backstage cast member parking lots as well. The entrance to the coaster will be located here in the back of the land to the right of Mama Melrose's, and there's even already been some work happening. A few weeks ago, some demolition began on this fake city facade as Disney preps for site work, so you could almost say that construction, in a way, has already begun. Additionally, it's also worth noting that even though we won't see any closures happen until late spring and early summer, Disney mentioned that construction walls are planned to be installed in the land by the end of March, which really just indicates how quickly Disney is willing to move here. The location of the first patch of construction walls is unknown at this time and will remain so for the next 2 months. If I had to take a guess, I think it's safe to assume that the first thing on Disney's list will most likely be gutting the interior of the unused Stage 1 company store, which has only operated seasonally for many years. According to the concept art, the store is set to be completely demolished, so it would make sense to begin work there first. As far as when Disney will want to have the entire land completed, I think a good guesstimate is probably 2028, considering that the Tropical Americas over at Animal Kingdom is targeted for 2027. So now with that long update out of the way, we have to talk about the future of Muppet Vision specifically, because even though this entire land is set to get rethemed to Monsters Inc., the future of Muppet Vision does in fact have a bit of a bright spot, which is what I want to talk about next. I say this because Disney themselves have alluded to it. You see, when Disney announced that Muppet Vision 3D would be closing, they also briefly mentioned some hopeful words for fans. Quote, "As we move forward with these changes, we are having creative conversations and exploring ways to preserve the film and other parts of the experience for fans to enjoy in the future. It's no secret that the Muppets have a special place in our hearts, and we are exploring ways to preserve the Muppet Vision 3D film for generations to come." End quote. So for those that don't know, Muppet Vision 3D is a very special and unique experience. Not only has it been part of the park for over 30 years, but it was also the final project that Jim Henson himself worked on before he passed away in 1990. The attraction opened 1 year later in 1991, and even though it wasn't an original Hollywood Studios attraction, there's no denying that it is a timeless piece of both Disney and American entertainment history and innovation, and I believe that Disney knows this too. Given their statement excitement and the outcry from the Disney community, it sounds promising that Disney is thinking of ways to somehow preserve Muppet Vision in some long-term capacity. Now, as for what that may be, I honestly have no idea. But the leading rumor is that Disney may simply just copy and paste the film to be made viewable on Disney+, but I think that's lazy. While I certainly wouldn't mind that for the sake of convenience, just slapping the film up on a streaming service is not doing the attraction justice. Muppet Vision is a very sensory and immersive show that deserves to be experienced with all of its moving parts, and I will not settle for a quick and cheap solution, and I don't think I'm alone in saying that. Another rumor, of course, would be for Disney to just simply relocate the show elsewhere, but I don't think that's likely from a logistical standpoint. But whatever Disney's plans are regarding the future of Muppet Vision, I'll be sure to keep you updated as soon as I can right here on the channel, so make sure you're subscribed with those notifications turned on. But in case you're wondering what Disney's confirmed plans are for the Muppets inside Disney's Hollywood Studios, we have some more breaking news to cover all the way on the other end of the park along Sunset Boulevard. Alright everybody, well I made it over here to Sunset Boulevard right in front of Roller Coaster, and all I have to say is that Roller Coaster Starring Aerosmith is not going to be starring Aerosmith for much longer, as the Muppets are actually going to be moving from Grand Avenue over to here. Yep, that's right. Even though the Muppets will be removed from their current home in Grand Avenue, not all is lost, as they'll be moving over here to Sunset Boulevard and taking over Roller Coaster instead. This is something that was not announced at the D23 Expo in August, and was instead a surprise announcement that Disney released back in November when they confirmed that the Muppets' current home was getting replaced. Disney also shared this singular piece of concept art and a brief description about what the coaster may entail, saying, quote, "The Muppets will be taking over Roller Coaster, teaming up with some of music's biggest stars for a rockin' music festival. We know so many of you share our love for the Muppets and know their energy will be a perfect fit for this coaster. Plus, as the first Disney ride ever to feature the Muppets, there's sure to be laughter, screams, and new tunes for this attraction for fans to enjoy." End quote. As you can see, this coaster will place a heavy emphasis on Dr. Teeth and his band Electric Mayhem, alongside Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy. Disney has also alluded to the fact that the coaster may even be keeping its name of Roller Coaster, just without the Aerosmith attachment. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more I actually think this decision to retheme Roller Coaster makes a lot of sense. Not only has it been rumored for years now that a rebranding of Roller Coaster was due, but Disney's contract with Aerosmith actually expires next year in 2026, and it doesn't look like Disney is interested in renewing, which makes sense considering the fact that Aerosmith is not touring any longer in the United States. And while I will miss the original Roller Coaster, an attraction that has been at the park for over 25 years, I honestly agree with Disney and do think it's time for something new to come in and refresh the coaster. And I think the Muppets is a surprisingly great choice. Not only does Electric Mayhem fit the rock and roll theme perfectly, but it also manages to keep the Muppets IP inside the park. Now, what's really interesting here is, unlike the Muppets over in Grand Avenue, we actually don't have a closing date yet for Roller Coaster, which is interesting because personally, if you would have asked me a week ago which attraction I thought was going to close first, this one or Muppet Vision, I would have thought this one, but that doesn't seem to be the case. But just because we don't know the closing date yet for Roller Coaster, that doesn't mean it isn't on its way out soon. We haven't been hearing of any rumors lately, so if I had to take a guess, my belief is that Roller Coaster will close sometime later this year in 2025, with a scheduled reopening sometime in the second half of 2026. Again, Disney isn't doing anything crazy with this coaster, as it's a very simple retheme. Most of the heavy changes are going to actually come from the inside of the ride queue and the exterior of the building rather than the actual ride itself, which is why I don't foresee this ride being closed for very long. The only way that I could see this attraction being closed longer than usual is if Disney wanted to also improve the ride track, but I don't think that's likely either, considering Roller Coaster just got done with a 6-month refurbishment last year. Also, a potential project completion date of 2026 would also give Disney the opportunity to debut a somewhat new addition for guests next year before the bigger additions open at Walt Disney World in the following years. But that's the latest going on with Roller Coaster here in the corner of Sunset Boulevard, which actually leads us to our next update at the park, which is conveniently located right next door. Right next to Rock and Roller Coaster in the very back corner of Sunset Boulevard, we have the currently dormant Sunset Showcase Theater, which will soon house something new later this year. Scheduled to debut this summer, an all-new theater show featuring Disney villains will premiere at the Sunset Showcase Theater. As a quick refresher, the show was announced unexpectedly back in September after not being mentioned at the D23 Expo. The old show, Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy, closed 1 month later in October, and work has been underway ever since. By the looks of it, it doesn't appear that there's been much work happening on the exterior, but that doesn't mean there isn't any work underway in the interior. In fact, earlier this month, some recent general construction permits were filed by Disney in partnership with various contractors, indicating that work is in fact happening on the inside. Now, as far as details go, they still remain a little sparse, but there are some updates I'm due to discuss. Back in November, Disney unveiled the name for the show alongside a new logo called Disney Villains Unfairly Ever After. In addition to this announcement, Disney also shared a new piece of concept art with us that shows a detailed look at the stage. It looks like nearly every Disney villain you can imagine will be represented in this show in some capacity, with prominent roles featuring Cruella de Vil, Jafar, Hades, Captain Hook, and Maleficent. It was also publicly revealed that Disney has begun casting the roles of the main villains you'll find in the show, which is great to hear. But other than that, that seems to be just about everything happening with this new show at Disney's Hollywood Studios as it prepares for its summer 2025 debut on Sunset Boulevard. Alright everybody, and then for our final update of the video, I am over here in Animation Courtyard to discuss another new show coming this summer in 2025 here at the park, with that being The Little Mermaid, a musical adventure. Shifting gears to Animation Courtyard, we have a few updates regarding the revival of The Little Mermaid show, also debuting this summer. We really don't have much to discuss other than the obvious fact that unlike the villain show, exterior work has in fact begun outside the theater. The old signage from the former show called Voyage of the Little Mermaid was unexpectedly removed last week, and work is currently underway as Disney preps to eventually install some new signage for the new show. Now, it's unclear what this new signage will look like, but I can't imagine it will be that much different from the old one, as many of those old sign elements could easily be reused. As far as interior work goes, we obviously can't say for sure what's going on, but it's safe to say that work is probably going swimmingly, no pun intended. Recently, Disney released a slightly updated piece of concept art that depicts a scene from the popular musical number Under the Sea. Now, this piece of concept art you're seeing is also in addition to the original one we received over a year ago, which depicts the new Kiss the Girl scene. Disney also shared some behind-the-scenes photos of a few of the puppets that have been designed for the show, and they all look great. Again, nothing major happening here in Animation Courtyard as of yet, but that's everything new going on regarding the new Little Mermaid show, which once again will debut this summer in 2025. Well, everybody, that is going to officially wrap up this construction video here at Disney's Hollywood Studios. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and hopefully this is the start of more Hollywood Studios specific construction videos to come. I can't really guarantee that. It honestly just kind of depends on whenever the show's open, right? When they say summer, is it going to be really early summer, or are we talking late summer in August? We honestly don't know. Obviously, of course, the Monsters in Construction is going to start very, very, very soon. And there are even a few other things that are going to happen here at Hollywood Studios I didn't necessarily mention in this video, but a few other things that might be on the way as well. But I don't want to get too ahead of myself. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, turn those notifications on. Check me out on Instagram as well. The link is down below. And again, I mentioned it in my last video, we also have a website up and running now. So please be sure to go check that out as well. We cover a bunch of breaking news, spur of the moment stuff that I wait to capture on video later. And also let me know in the comments below how you feel about all the stuff happening here. How do you feel about Monsters Inc. replacing the Muppets and it closing so soon? And how do you feel about Rock and Roller Coaster getting replaced by the Muppets? It's crazy. Like, the Muppets are getting replaced by something, but then the Muppets themselves are also replacing something in the same park. It's crazy. It's honestly amazes me how much is going to be coming to Disney's Hollywood Studios in the next few years. It almost feels like Disney's investing more in this park than they are at Animal Kingdom. And I think Animal Kingdom needs more of the investment than this park does. But, you know, I'm not Disney management. But either way, it is very exciting stuff. But my name is Bobby. This has been It's a Small Vlog, your Hollywood Studios January 2025 construction update. And with all that out of the way, have a magical day, everybody. Bye.